So I am Mac, and I'm a transgendered man. And what I wanted to talk to you guys about today is the shame that many of us grew up with around gender and sexuality. And the fact that I came from the South, and I'm sure there are more of you out there that came from the South, and want to know if there's a way and a place that you can be yourself. And about 3.5 years ago, I moved to this amazing place called Seattle. And coming from the South, it was literally like moving to the promised land. So in the South, there was no one I could talk to about being transgender or about questioning gender or sexuality. Um, there was just really no one to talk to. There were people I knew that were outwardly gay, but there was no one that I knew that was outwardly transgender. Now, I did meet a few people who performed drag, and so that was probably the closest I could come to anyone um, that really, you know, fucked with the gender thing at all. And they were mainly looked at as performers. And so, I mean, I read about it on the internet, and that's about all I could do. There was no support group. There were no people that were out about it if they were transgender, and I'm sure there were a few around in Florida, but nobody talked about it, and nobody was out about it, at least in the area I grew up in Central Florida. Possibly in Key West you could find someone, but not in Central Florida. And so moving to Seattle and the West Coast, and especially a city like Seattle that's so open and so open for people to explore everything, to explore sexuality, to explore gender, and looks at gender as a large scale, not as black and white, not as a binary system at all, but this large scale, and doesn't really care, just lets people explore it and be whoever they are. Um, that's amazing. I often say, where I came from, if you were the kid with too many piercings or tattoos, or sometimes any piercings visible or tattoos, um, you were an outcast. So, so to be someone who has freedom to explore gender expression um, and sexuality, if you had like something a little different about your sexuality, like you're interested in something that could be considered a little kinky or different, it was just very frowned upon there. So there, I want you to know, and I think it's important that people coming from small towns and from places like the South to understand that there are places in our own country that you can have the freedom, and it's even encouraged to explore. It's celebrated. Diversity here is actually celebrated. What an amazing concept. And there's this concept called sex positivity, where we actually create a sex positive culture where we actually talk about sex and everything that has to do with our sexuality in a positive way. Imagine that. I would have loved to have been raised in a sex positive culture instead of shame being put around everything to do with our sexuality, and pushed down our throat in the Bible belts was abstinence and shame, always shame about it, and especially nothing outside of marriage. Um, and the messages that we got were just very negative around our bodies, around sexuality, around our desire, around the natural process of growing as a young person and exploring sexuality. It was just very shameful. Um, so I want you to know there are wonderful places you can go like this. Don't give up. Um, it does get so much better. And there are places you can go where it's, oh my God, just amazing. There's a support group here for almost everything, or a class in almost anything you can imagine. From exploring gender to many different things about sexuality, There are classes on kinky stuff here. There are discussion groups on things. It's encouraged to be educated about these subjects here and to explore and find what works for you. And there's no shame in doing that, and there shouldn't be any shame in doing that. We were created as sexual beings. We were not created to ignore that. In fact, I'm a personal trainer and a martial arts teacher, and in fact, it's really good to have a healthy sex life is really good for your health, for the health of your body. They've now done studies to prove that sex is as good and does the same thing for your body as meditation. So it releases tension. It releases good chemicals in your brain that help us be happier. And therefore, when we're happy, we put out good energy and better energy everywhere we go and with every person we come in contact with. So it allows us to work better, just makes us happier overall, which contributes to just a happier planet, in my opinion. So explore. I'm so glad to be in a place where I can truly um, discover, have the freedom to explore and discover what I want for me, not what society puts on me, but what I want for me and where I'm happy and the things that make me happy. Um, it's just a beautiful gift to live in a place like this and to know there are places like this that there's no shame. So I just want to encourage you to maybe come visit a place like Seattle if you live in a small town that doesn't give you that freedom, and realize that you're not stuck there your whole life. That there are places like this that you can come, and I encourage you. I encourage you to visit. And if you are curious and want to know about a certain thing or classes or discussion groups or support groups, send me a note, and I will be glad to point you toward the right thing here. And be encouraged and help. Do your part to help create a sex positive culture. Talk to you again soon.